The sun hung mercilessly over Kofi Aboabo. The earth cracked beneath the relentless heat, dry soil stretching endlessly in every direction. Villagers trudged along dusty paths, carrying empty containers to distant, dwindling wells. Children's feet were coated in dust, their eyes squinting against the glaring sun. Animals sought shade beneath sparse trees, their shadows thin and weak. The crops in small gardens lay wilted, brown leaves curling inward. Kwame stood silently on a ridge, observing the scene, his hands shielding his eyes. He whispered to himself, "If the sun burns us, can it also save us?" The village well gurgled, nearly dry, as women lowered battered buckets. Water trickled weakly, splashing onto parched hands. Amma carried a small child on her back, holding an empty jug in her arms. Her face showed worry and determination, a mix of youth and responsibility. Elders stood nearby, shaking their heads at the stubborn son. Kwame approached, offering a hand to help carry the water container. Villagers whispered about failing crops, about hunger creeping closer each day. Kwame's gaze drifted toward the horizon, imagining a solution no one else could see. In the small hut at the edge of the village, Kwame tinkered with scraps of metal and old mirrors. He arranged them carefully, experimenting with angles that reflected the sun's rays. A discarded coil lay beside him, its rusted loops catching sunlight in strange patterns. He whispered, "If sunlight can scorch, maybe it can deliver life." Amma peered through the doorway, curiosity flickering in her eyes. Kwame smiled faintly, adjusting the mirror's tilt to catch a beam across the floor. The hut smelled of earth and smoke from the evening fire. Outside, the village hummed quietly, unaware that a radical idea was forming. Villagers gathered in the central square, murmuring nervously. Kwame stepped forward, holding a small wooden model of his idea. Ibo, the village elder, squinted and shook his head. "Harvesting sunlight? Foolishness," he muttered to those nearby. Laughter rippled through the crowd, some villagers covering their mouths. Kwame's hands trembled slightly, but he spoke with calm determination. "If the sun can burn us, it can also give us water," he declared. Some whispered encouragement, others shook their heads, unsure whether to hope or doubt. Kwame returned to his hut as the sun dipped toward the horizon. He examined his small mirror setup again, adjusting angles with precision. Water from a shallow bowl glimmered in reflected light, moving in tiny ripples. Amma brought him a small bundle of cloth to wipe sweat from his brow. He paused, looking out toward the fields that would soon need water. Night approached, bringing brief relief from the scorching sun. The village settled quietly, under a blanket of orange twilight. Kwame whispered, "Tomorrow I will make the sun work for us." The following morning, Kwame ventured toward a small underground spring. He carried simple pipes, mirrors, and ropes, determined to begin experiments outside. Amma followed, carrying water for testing. Villagers peeked from behind mud walls, curious yet cautious. Kwame set up his first small reflective panel over the spring, angling it to catch sunlight. A trickle of water appeared, moving slowly along the pipe, his eyes lit with excitement, though he knew it was only a beginning. "Small steps," he murmured, "but life begins here." Ibo approached cautiously, leaning on his staff. He observed Kwame's setup, frowning but silent. "Will this really bring water?" he asked, his voice low. Kwame nodded slowly, focusing on the pipe as water began to flow in a thin stream. Amma clapped softly, drawing the attention of a few nearby villagers. Ibo's eyes narrowed, surprise flickering behind his skepticism. Whispers spread among onlookers, a mixture of hope and disbelief. Kwame smiled faintly, knowing the first victory was small, but crucial. By noon, a few villagers dared to approach, dipping hands into the emerging water. Laughter and murmurs of amazement filled the air. Kwame stood back, watching as the first small patches of the field received water. Amma ran to fetch children, showing them the flowing stream. The sun beat down relentlessly, but the water shimmered like a ribbon of hope. Even Ibo allowed a small nod of approval, eyes softening. Kwame looked at the sky, imagining rows of green fields and thriving crops. "This is only the beginning," he said quietly, determination burning brighter than the sun. The following days, Kwame refined his system, adding more mirrors to catch sunlight efficiently. Water now flowed steadily through the thin pipes into small plots of land. Amma helped him plant the first seeds, carefully patting soil over each one. Children watched, curiosity replacing their usual hunger-fueled lethargy. Villagers approached slowly, asking questions and offering small suggestions. Ibo, still skeptical, monitored from a distance, his brow furrowed but thoughtful. The sun shone relentlessly, yet the first signs of hope appeared in the form of damp earth. Kwame whispered, "Even the smallest green can change a village." A sudden wind scattered dust across the fields, testing Kwame's fragile setup. Pipes rattled, mirrors tilted dangerously, and water sputtered in protest. Amma held a mirror in place as Kwame secured loose ropes, their hands working quickly together. The village watched anxiously, realizing how delicate progress could be. Ibo stepped closer, gripping his staff tightly, evaluating whether to intervene. The sun blazed overhead, relentless, as if testing Kwame's resolve. Water continued flowing, albeit in a thinner stream, shimmering under golden light. Kwame exhaled, smiling faintly, knowing persistence would triumph over nature's tests. By evening, the first seedlings broke through the soil, tender and fragile. Amma ran her fingers over the damp earth, marveling at life emerging where there was none. Children danced nearby, their laughter echoing across the village square. Kwame knelt beside the seedlings, feeling the pulse of life under his fingertips. Ibo finally approached fully, kneeling carefully to examine the growth. "I underestimated you, Kwame," he admitted softly. The village began to murmur in excitement, hope stirring like a long-forgotten river. The sun dipped low, casting elongated shadows that mingled with the emerging green. Kwame looked toward the horizon, imagining a future where every field could thrive. Word of Kwame's innovation spread to nearby villages. Travelers arrived, curious to see the sun-powered water. Villagers welcomed them cautiously, proud but cautious of attention. Kwame explained the system simply, showing mirrors, pipes, and underground springs. Some visitors were skeptical, shaking heads and muttering about foolishness. Others took notes, eyes widening at the flowing water and healthy seedlings. Amma led the children in showing small tasks they had learned, digging, planting, and watering. Kwame watched with quiet pride, seeing knowledge begin to ripple outward. If you're enjoying Kwame's journey, take a minute to subscribe and follow this story so you don't miss how a single man turned the sun into life for his village. Villagers worked together to expand the irrigation, digging channels and reinforcing pipes. Kwame supervised, giving guidance while allowing villagers to innovate their own improvements. Amma coordinated small groups of children, teaching responsibility and patience. Ibo finally smiled more freely, nodding as he inspected the flowing water. The first small harvests appeared: young maize, yam sprouts, and leafy greens. Villagers celebrated quietly, savoring each edible sprout like treasure. The village that once feared the sun now welcomed its energy as a partner. Kwame felt a surge of determination, knowing bigger changes were ahead. One afternoon, Kwame noticed a group of elders gathering, whispering anxiously. He approached, sensing hesitation and fear of change. Ibo stepped forward, smiling gently, saying, "Kwame, your son has changed, not just the land, but our hearts." Villagers nodded, realizing that skepticism had turned to trust. Children ran past, carrying water from newly filled channels, laughter echoing in the air. The sun reflected off the flowing water, scattering light across the newly green fields. Kwame felt a deep connection to his community, a shared bond forged through perseverance. "This is only the beginning," he said quietly, eyes on the horizon. Night fell over Kofi Aboabo, the first harvest safely stored in baskets. Villagers gathered around fires, sharing stories of hope and transformation. Amma helped serve small portions of fresh vegetables, smiles lighting every face. Kwame stood at the edge of the village, gazing at the stars, imagining future possibilities. Ibo placed a hand on his shoulder, nodding in respect and quiet pride. The village had survived the sun, and now it was thriving under its guidance. Dreams of expansion and teaching nearby villages filled Kwame's mind. He whispered to himself, "The sun is no longer our enemy, it is our ally." Morning light broke over Kofi Aboabo, painting the fields in gold. Kwame walked along the irrigation channels, inspecting the flowing water with satisfaction. Amma followed closely, balancing a small basket of freshly sprouted vegetables. Villagers were already at work, carrying tools and preparing to plant new seeds. The sun reflected off the mirrors, sending beams onto the soil, energizing the community. Children ran alongside Kwame, curious about every detail of the system. Ibo observed from a shaded tree, leaning on his staff, pride evident in his eyes. Kwame smiled, realizing the village was no longer waiting for nature. They were shaping their own future. Kwame gathered villagers under the old baobab tree to discuss expansion. He pointed to distant plots of dry land beyond the village perimeter. "If we extend the channels, we can grow enough food for everyone and teach others to do the same," he said. Villagers nodded, motivated by the first successful harvest. Amma sketched small diagrams in the dirt, showing how to connect pipes and mirrors. Some elders raised concerns about labor, but excitement outweighed fear. Children listened, eyes wide with imagination, picturing endless green fields. Kwame encouraged questions, answering each with patience and practical advice. Work began immediately, villagers carrying wooden planks, pipes, and reflective panels. Kwame supervised, ensuring each panel caught maximum sunlight. Amma directed children to dig small trenches for water channels. Ibo worked quietly, offering guidance but letting the younger men and women lead. Dust swirled as tools struck the dry earth, sunlight glinting on metal surfaces. The village hummed with energy and purpose, a stark contrast to the despair of weeks ago. Kwame paused to check water flow, adjusting mirrors to maximize efficiency. Even a small increase in output brought wide smiles and whispered encouragement. Midday sun beat down hard, testing both patience and endurance. Kwame and Amma wiped sweat from their brows, coordinating small groups of workers. Villagers paused only briefly to drink from flowing water channels, replenishing energy. Ibo offered quiet approval, occasionally giving tips to improve alignment. The first rows of new crops were planted, tiny green shoots already glistening with water. Children laughed, running along irrigation paths, splashing water as they went. The village felt alive, transformed from desperation to determination. Kwame looked skyward, whispering gratitude to the sun, and resolved to continue. A traveling merchant arrived from a nearby village, intrigued by rumors of Kwame's system. He approached cautiously, inspecting mirrors and pipes with suspicion. Kwame welcomed him warmly, demonstrating how sunlight-powered water flow. Amma showed the merchant the thriving seedlings, explaining how children participated in planting. The merchant's eyes widened as he traced water flowing from spring to field. He muttered, "I've never seen anything like this before." Villagers watched silently, proud yet modest, realizing their work was attracting attention. Kwame smiled, knowing the knowledge would ripple beyond Kofi Aboabo. Kwame took a brief pause, sitting beside Amma, near the main water channel. Children played nearby, their laughter echoing over flowing water. Amma handed him a small handful of fresh vegetables, a gift of gratitude. They shared a quiet moment, watching sunlight shimmer across newly green fields. Kwame felt pride in what had been achieved and the unity forming in the village. Ibo approached silently, nodding in approval without a word. The sun cast long shadows, signaling the end of a productive morning. Kwame whispered, "This is just the beginning. We will teach, grow, and inspire beyond these fields." Word spread further, drawing curious villagers from distant hamlets. Kwame organized small demonstrations, showing how to build their own solar-powered water systems. Visitors took notes eagerly, some skeptical, others inspired by the flowing water and thriving fields. Amma guided children from Kofi Aboabo in teaching visitors simple planting techniques. The village became a hub of knowledge and innovation, a model for sustainable farming. Ebo stood in the background, quietly observing the ripple effect of Kwame's vision. Villagers laughed and shared stories, pride and hope filling the air. Kwame smiled, knowing that one idea had grown far beyond their small village. Evening approached, painting the village in deep oranges and purples. Villagers gathered to rest, sharing food from the first harvest. Kwame walked among them, listening, encouraging, and planning the next steps. Amma carried a basket of vegetables to families, smiling at the children's delight. The village that once feared the sun now welcomed it as a partner. Ebo finally spoke aloud. Kwame, you have shown us that courage and ingenuity can change our destiny. Kwame looked toward the horizon, envisioning future fields and thriving communities beyond Kofi Aboabo. He whispered, "The sun has given us life, and now it will give life to others too." Night fell over Kofi Aboabo, the sky filled with countless stars. Villagers gathered around small fires, speaking softly about the changes in their lives. Kwame sat quietly, listening to children recounting how water now flowed to their gardens. Amma placed baskets of fresh vegetables beside families, smiling as they shared small meals. Ebo leaned on his staff, eyes twinkling under the firelight, admiration evident. The air was filled with warmth and the faint smell of cooking fires. Kwame felt the weight of responsibility, but also the thrill of possibility. He whispered to himself, "Tomorrow we grow further and teach others to grow too." Morning arrived with a golden haze, and Kwame walked to the far end of the village. He observed plots that had yet to receive water and mapped a plan in his mind. Amma joined him, carrying tools for digging new channels. Villagers followed, eager to continue the expansion of irrigation. The sun's rays glinted off mirrors, signaling the start of another productive day. Even the skeptics moved with purpose, inspired by the green shoots emerging from the soil. Kwame demonstrated how small adjustments could maximize water flow. Children helped, learning through observation and simple tasks, proud to contribute. The village worked tirelessly, connecting new channels and reinforcing existing ones. Amma coordinated groups of children to plant seedlings along the water paths. Kwame adjusted mirrors and pipes, carefully monitoring each flow. Ebo observed from a nearby tree, nodding as progress unfolded. Villagers laughed and encouraged one another, enjoying the rhythm of shared work. Even small setbacks, like a loose pipe or shifting soil, were met with quick solutions. The sun burned bright overhead, but no one wavered. Hope fueled their energy. Kwame took a moment to glance across the village, imagining the flourishing fields in the near future. By midday, the first larger patches of crops began to thrive. Green shoots glimmered under sunlight, promising abundant harvests. Amma showed villagers how to trim and care for the plants to ensure maximum growth. Children ran along water channels, occasionally splashing and laughing. Ebo approached Kwame, sharing quiet advice and tips for improving efficiency. The village that once feared the sun now celebrated its energy as life-giving. Kwame felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that their perseverance was creating a lasting change. He whispered, "From one small idea, we are shaping our future." Travelers from other villages began arriving more frequently, curious about Kwame's system. Some were hesitant, skeptical about the simplicity of mirrors and pipes. Kwame welcomed them, demonstrating how sunlight powered the water flow. Amma showed children how to plant seeds and manage water, making the demonstration interactive. Visitors' eyes widened as they observed seedlings thriving and channels flowing steadily. Whispers of admiration filled the air, and some took careful notes to replicate the system elsewhere. Villagers of Kofi Aboabo felt pride in their contribution, realizing their work was inspiring others. Kwame smiled quietly, envisioning the ripple effect of their innovations spreading across Ghana. As weeks passed, the village began celebrating the first full harvest. Baskets overflowed with yams, maize, and leafy greens, a stark contrast to past scarcity. Villagers worked together to distribute food, ensuring no family went hungry. Amma led children in helping carry produce to households, pride shining on their faces. Ebo stood quietly, watching the community flourish under Kwame's guidance. Kwame walked among the fields, adjusting mirrors and guiding villagers with a patient hand. The village buzzed with newfound energy and optimism. He realized the sun had become not a threat, but a partner in their survival and growth. Evening draped Kofi Aboabo in soft orange and purple hues. Villagers gathered near the fields, sharing stories of the changes the sun had brought. Amma handed small portions of fresh vegetables to families, children munching happily. Kwame stood at the edge of the village, surveying thriving fields and flowing channels. Ibo placed a hand on his shoulder, nodding in respect and quiet pride. The village that once despaired now held hope, resilience, and empowerment in their hands. Kwame whispered to himself, "This is just the start. Our journey will reach beyond these hills." The sun set behind green fields, casting a golden glow on a community transformed. The sun rose over Kofi Aboabo, brighter than ever, signaling a new beginning. Kwame walked among the now thriving crops, inspecting the growth and water flow. Amma carried small baskets of vegetables to families, smiling at their gratitude. Villagers worked side by side, extending channels and adjusting mirrors. Children ran along irrigation paths, laughing and splashing in the water. Ibo leaned on his staff, watching quietly, pride in his eyes. The village had transformed from desperation to empowerment, all under the relentless sun. Kwame whispered, "The work isn't finished, but the seed of hope is planted." Visitors from nearby regions arrived again, eager to learn Kwame's methods. Some carried notebooks, others cameras, documenting the flowing water and green fields. Kwame and Amma demonstrated the mirrors, pipes, and irrigation channels in detail. Villagers helped, showing how teamwork made the system successful. Ibo observed quietly, smiling at how knowledge spread beyond their village. The sun glinted off the flowing water, casting shimmering reflections across the crops. Children proudly guided visitors along the water channels, explaining planting techniques. Kwame realized their small village was now a beacon of sustainable farming. Kwame decided to test a larger-scale expansion. He mapped a new plot at the far edge of Kofi Aboabo, where land had remained barren. Amma gathered children to help prepare small seedlings for planting. Villagers carried long pipes, mirrors, and tools to the new site. Dust rose under the relentless sun, but spirits were high, fueled by past successes. Ibo offered advice on placement and water distribution, guiding workers subtly. Kwame aligned mirrors carefully, calculating angles to maximize sunlight exposure. Water began flowing, thin at first, then steady, promising new growth in the barren fields. Midday heat tested everyone's stamina, but determination carried them forward. Kwame and Amma coordinated tasks, ensuring water reached all corners of the new plot. Villagers dug trenches, planted seedlings, and adjusted mirrors with precision. Ibo stood nearby, nodding approvingly as the sun reflected off flowing water. Children ran along channels, splashing occasionally, their laughter echoing through the fields. The barren land slowly absorbed the water, darkening soil, signaling life returning. Kwame paused to admire the progress, realizing that their effort would feed many generations. By late afternoon, the first sprouts appeared in the newly irrigated land. Amma and the children celebrated, clapping and pointing to green shoots emerging from the soil. Villagers whispered excitedly, marveling at the transformation before their eyes. Ibo stepped forward, placing a hand on Kwame's shoulder, acknowledging his vision. Kwame looked across the village, seeing green patches interwoven with flowing channels. He realized that the sun, once a source of fear, had become a tool of life and unity. The community gathered to rest, sharing smiles and small conversations. Kwame whispered to Amma, "This is only the beginning of what we can achieve." As evening fell, Kofi Aboabo glowed under a soft orange and purple sky. Villagers gathered around fires, sharing stories of transformation and resilience. Amma handed fresh vegetables to families, children munching happily, eyes bright with hope. Kwame walked among the fields, adjusting mirrors and speaking to villagers about future plans. Ibo stood quietly, nodding at the thriving crops and organized irrigation channels. The sun dipped low, casting long golden shadows across the village. Children played along channels, their laughter blending with the soft evening breeze. News of Kofi Aboabo's success spread to distant villages and towns. Delegations arrived, curious to learn how sunlight could be harnessed for life. Kwame welcomed them, explaining the system step by step, while Amma guided children in demonstrations. Visitors were amazed at the flowing water, thriving crops, and community involvement. Villagers proudly showcased their work, realizing their knowledge could help others survive and thrive. Ibo watched quietly, witnessing how courage and ingenuity could ripple beyond their own community. Kwame felt a surge of hope, knowing their story could inspire far more than just one village. Night arrived over Kofi Aboabo, quiet except for children laughing softly and fires crackling. Kwame stood at the edge of the village, gazing at the thriving fields bathed in moonlight. Amma brought a small basket of vegetables, setting it beside families gathered near fires. Ibo approached, nodding in silent approval, pride evident in his eyes. Villagers reflected on how the sun, once feared, had become a partner in life and growth. The stars shimmered above, echoing the hope now rooted in the hearts of every villager. The village slept peacefully, transformed by courage, ingenuity, and the power of sunlight. The sun rose brilliantly over Kofi Aboabo, casting a golden glow across the thriving fields. Kwame walked the longest irrigation channel, inspecting the flow carefully. Amma followed, carrying baskets of vegetables to families still asleep from the previous night's celebration. Villagers were already tending crops, adjusting mirrors, and guiding water to new plots. Children laughed, running along the channels, splashing lightly in the sunlit water. Ibo stood nearby, quietly observing, a serene smile on his face. Kwame realized the village had fully embraced the sun as a partner, not a threat. Delegates from neighboring villages arrived once more, eager to learn Kwame's methods. They watched attentively as Kwame and Amma demonstrated mirrors, pipes, and irrigation channels. Villagers guided visitors through the fields, explaining each step of planting and watering. Ibo nodded silently, proud of how far the village had come. The sun reflected off flowing water, casting shimmering light across the green fields. Children explained their roles in the system, eager to show their contributions. Visitors' eyes widened, many taking notes and capturing images to replicate the system elsewhere. Kwame smiled, realizing the ripple of knowledge would continue to grow beyond Kofi Aboabo. By afternoon, the expanded fields were fully irrigated, thriving under the sun's guidance. Kwame and Amma coordinated planting, adjusting mirrors, and ensuring water flow reached every corner. Villagers worked with precision, communicating and laughing together as a united team. Children carried small buckets of water to areas requiring extra care. Ibo stood in the shade, watching the harmony between sun, water, and people. Kwame paused to observe, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. The barren land of weeks ago was now lush and fertile, promising abundant harvests. He whispered to himself, "We turned adversity into abundance, and it is only the beginning." Evening approached, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Villagers gathered near the central water channels to celebrate the first large harvest. Amma distributed fresh vegetables to families, children biting into their first full meals in weeks. Kwame walked slowly among the people, listening, encouraging, and quietly planning future expansions. Ibo placed a hand on Kwame's shoulder, eyes reflecting pride and admiration. The village had transformed, from scarcity and fear to empowerment and hope. Kwame realized that their journey had become a model for resilience and innovation. Word of Kofi Aboabo's success spread across the region. Delegations and visitors arrived regularly, eager to learn and replicate the solar-powered irrigation system. Kwame and Amma trained villagers patiently, showing step-by-step how to harness sunlight for water. Ibo watched proudly as knowledge flowed from one generation to the next. Children demonstrated planting and watering, confident and proud of their contributions. The sun reflected on the thriving crops, a symbol of transformation and hope. Villagers laughed and shared stories, realizing the power of courage and innovation. Kwame felt a surge of fulfillment, knowing their small idea was changing lives far beyond their village. Night settled over the village, fires casting warm glows on the smiling faces of villagers. Kwame stood at the edge of the thriving fields, gazing at the moonlit green expanse. Amma brought baskets of vegetables to families still celebrating, children eating under starlight. Ibo approached, placing a hand on Kwame's shoulder, nodding in quiet approval. Villagers reflected on how the sun, once feared, had become their ally in life and growth. Kwame whispered softly, "This is our legacy, and it will continue through every field, every child, and every village that learns our way." The stars above mirrored the hope that now radiated through Kofi Aboabo. The village slept peacefully, transformed by ingenuity, courage, and the life-giving sun. The next morning, Kwame gathered villagers for a final demonstration for visiting communities. He explained the principles of sunlight harvesting, irrigation, and communal farming. Amma guided children in teaching, planting, and water management to visitors. Villagers watched proudly as their knowledge spread, realizing their journey had inspired others. Ibo addressed the group, praising Kwame's vision and the collective effort of the village. The sun climbed high, illuminating the thriving green fields and sparkling water channels. Kwame felt immense pride, knowing their model could save countless other villages from hunger and drought. Evening descended, painting Kofi Aboabo in golden-orange hues one last time. Villagers gathered around fires, celebrating the transformation of their home and community. Amma handed baskets of vegetables to families, children laughing and playing. Kwame stood in the center of the thriving fields, looking up at the sun setting behind lush green rows. Ibo placed a hand on his shoulder, nodding with pride and admiration. The sun, once a source of fear and despair, had become a partner in life, growth, and hope. Kwame raised his voice for all to hear. Let this be a lesson. One person, with courage and ingenuity, can change the world. Subscribe, like, and comment below to stay connected, and follow the journey of transformation, courage, and hope. Share this story and let the sun light the path for others too.